way. The word in pharmacology is agonists. They're agonists. They have an action when they bind to the receptors, or they block the effects of receptors, and in which case they're antagonists. And so the point is, these plant messenger molecules and our neurotransmitters evolved from these same evolutionary precursors and probably had similar functions. Plants use neurotransmitter-like compounds that can act on brain receptors. What do these psychoactive plant compounds do for the plant? That's a question. Do they have any effect on the plant? Turns out that in many cases, yes, they do. Plants don't have nervous systems exactly, but believe it or not, plants can get high. There's information emerging on this now as plant physiologists actually look at plants in a much more behavioral sort of context than has ever been before. For a long time, the notion that plants behave, that plants are in some sense intelligent, was completely dismissed by plant physiologists and plant scientists. Now that whole picture is changing. And this is not an up-to-date presentation, but if you want to read about it, you can actually, if you know the author Michael Pollan, who writes for the New York Times, he had an article in the New Yorker on plant intelligence. Very nice article, which you can Google and find. So here we are. We've got this problematic primate that is evolving through evolutionary time at a breakneck rate, a really accelerated pace, and acquiring more complexity, more neural complexity along the way. And out of this process, we get the human species, which I like to call a problematic primate, because we are definitely problematic to the rest of the planet as well as to ourselves. But think about what an anomaly we are in the evolutionary picture. We're the only species with a complex language. We're the only technology utilizing species. I mean, by technology, I'm not talking about using a digging stick to get termites out of a nest like chimpanzees and things like that will do. There are other species that use tools. None have built the iPhone yet, as far as I'm aware, or landed on the moon or constructed starships. That's kind of the thing that we do because, well, one thing, these hands of ours, these hands with the prehensile thumbs, give us a lot of capabilities that primates or even primates don't have. They don't have opposable thumbs. They don't have the fine motor control that it takes to, make arrowheads or wire a circuit diagram. That's something that we do. And the other cool and incredible thing that we figured out how to do is to store information outside of ourselves in a way that's not genetic. We do that through language, through spoken language and written language, and we can store information. The first information storage systems, before writing was invented, people relied on memory, but they had tremendous memories. They could recite the Iliad word for word, and this was considered, if you wanted to be a poet, if you wanted to be worth your chops, you had to be able to do that. Information was transmitted across space and time through oral traditions, and when writing began to come along, people worried that people would forget, they would lose their memories because now they have writing. Are there analogies to our age or now? We don't have to remember anything. We just Google it, right? So I think I know there are many things I can't remember. Maybe that's a function of my age, but I think people rely on these systems. Not saying it's good or bad. This is just the way that it is. So we invented written language and oral traditions, and this just accelerated the ability to store information and transmit it through time and space, transmit it to future generations. And the reason that we're able to do this is because we're immersed in a world of symbols. We're immersed in a world of ideas and abstractions. We can visualize things, and we can visualize, for example, a painting, and then we can make it, or we can visualize a weapon, and we can build it, and we can, do all these things, because internally we're in this world of symbols. And this fact that we're immersed in symbols and more or less totally preoccupied with abstractions, with symbols all the time. We really can't get away from them. This is the foundation of human culture, this unique ability that we've created. And culture is this edifice comprised of art, science, religion, magic, myth, medicine, technology, folklore, law, etc. These are the institutions of humanity that set us apart from everything else in this biosphere, right? Other organisms have societies. It's not that they don't, but none has achieved the complexity that ours has, which has given us what you see before you, both the good and the bad consequences of being cultural beings immersed in culture. And if we didn't have language, we wouldn't have culture. Much of human culture essentially rides on language. And if we didn't have these extraordinary complex brains with so much of the brain devoted to generating and understanding language, well, we would probably still be living in trees, I mean, it's because of our complex brains which have come about somehow and given us language, and on language everything else is erected. This is language, culture runs on language in a certain sense. So all of this implies some form of consciousness. Essentially, I guess if we wanted to sum up all that I was talking about, it's consciousness. We're conscious. How did this come to be about? We're immersed in these abstractions. We're immersed on this ability to see meaning inherent in abstractions and words we say and things we see, symbols, in other words, that support this whole process of language. Somehow, I can stand up here and make small mouth noises, as my brother liked to call them, small mouth noises, which are meaningless, except that you all understand them. Maybe they're still meaningless, I don't know, but you know what I'm saying. And so we've achieved this ability to signify meaning, significance from small mouth noises. And you just carry that to the next step. Also, we can look at squiggles on a cave wall or on a piece of paper, and those are inherently meaningless too. But they're meaningful to us because we've made this neural connection, right? Connecting that to that inner world of symbols. So when did this ability, this symbolic awareness, if you want to call it, when did this happen?